I know for a fact that dealers like Nicky Barnes in New York and Eddie Jackson in Detroit were profiting up to $1 million a month at that time.
And Frank Matthews at that time, I think, was probably under 30 years old, was extremely bright, had good leadership skills, and had convened a meeting of all the top African-American and Hispanic drug dealers in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1971. And his goal was to unite and form a family where they cut out the Italian Mafia and went right to the source of heroin and brought it in and controlled the distribution.
He put $4 million on the table at one time. And he bragged about this. And he says, let me see if you can match this. And nobody could at the time. And he bought heroin or cocaine.
Detective Garay's story here seems to dovetail in with a story from a federal informant. In early 1971, the informant said he went to a brownstone in Brooklyn to chip in on a heroin purchase that Elwood Bynum and Frank Matthews were organizing with their Corsican partners in France. The informant said the entire brownstone was full of cash, millions of dollars in small bills, a massive load of 400 kilos fresh from the labs in Marseille, costing probably $4 million wholesale and worth $250 million when it hit the streets, was in the works. Believe it or not, the heroin was smuggled across the Atlantic from France to New York using underwater mines, once used by the Nazis to protect the coastline from Allied invasion in World War II.
He had given $1 million to a friend to hold and disappeared again. So when the gentleman sees him again, he say, Frank, when you gonna come get that money? And Frank goes, what money? He said, yo, man, you remember you gave me the shopping bag, those shopping bags, that money? He said, I'll come get it in a week or so. So how much money does he have?
We interviewed some informants. We rushed through an indictment, the first indictment before the superseding indictments, and we had Matthews indicted.
Mr. Brown, we're wondering why you haven't sued or taken some other action. I think if these stories had been written about me, I would be denying them to the nth degree.
Well, we denied it already, and like I say, we have to let our lawyers handle it in the legal manner through the courts.
Courtney Brown Sr. didn't get involved in selling drugs until he was 30 years old. He was actually a steward for the Detroit City Bus Workers Union, which was probably the ceiling of achievement for most black males in America circa 1970, unless you got in the drug business.
He knew we're driving the bus and playing the union game where that was going to lead. And it would have eventually led to a nice house, maybe one day on the northwest side of Detroit, and a decent pension. The kind of money that Eddie was already making, it became obvious that if he got involved with him, that he was going to have an opportunity to set himself up and put his family in a whole different situation than very few will ever get to know. And that did happen.
Eddie would rank in the top 5 across the country, and from 71 all the way up to 75 till he got violated. I would say Frank Matthews, beyond a shadow of a doubt, was #1. There's only was 2 or 3 people that Italians, black, were dealing with. Eddie was one, Frank Matthews.
With the introduction of drugs, large amounts of drugs into the United States, came an economy, an underground economy.
A river of money is flowing because business is so good. Everybody knows everybody. You're turning your money like you're supposed to, or you're paying cash for what you're doing, you have a good life.
In 70, 71, heroin was endemic. Entire blocks in Brooklyn, the entire apartment houses were addicted, and small $10 packages of heroin was being used.
We had a mandate to go after these guys. So the politicians made a lot of noise, the media focused on that, which forced law enforcement to go after those guys that were dealing heroin.
And I decided to leave Compton Police Department and went with an agency called the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. I put in an application. I wanted to make a difference. I saw the country going to hell in a basket, to say. I saw people just destroying their lives. I saw heroin addicts.
Kids who their parents had struggled and marched and wanted to make sure that they were extremely successful and to go as far as their talents could take them, suddenly got involved in drugs. And the drug was heroin. So it was just destroying the African-American community.
In 1972, Agent Sutton, one of the DEA's first black undercover agents, was sent to Detroit. Agent Sutton arrived in a Detroit that was simultaneously the murder capital of the country and one of the most affluent metropolitan areas in the entire United States. For many African Americans, Detroit was truly the promised land of opportunity.
We had a lot of black lawyers, doctors, both male and females. They had black law firms here, and they had politicians.
To all dope pushers, to all rip-off artists, to all mothers, hit the road.
I saw a kind of a black influence that I had never seen in other cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and places.
Some people in the black community, like Eddie Jackson in Detroit, were finding their economic empowerment through heroin.